Yeah, and we've actually jumped into the game right now. So, also the add-on, usually updated by Vadrak, is not 100% there. So this Spectator client is actually brought today by Starship's adaptation of that. So bear with the Spectator client. There was a lot of new spell IDs to be coded in, so a lot of the information in the cooldown section is going to be incorrect. We're going to be doing our best to bring you the cast regardless. So this first matchup looks to be a Windwalker Fire Mage Mistweaver Monk, a composition that I wasn't really expecting to see.
Yeah, so that's something I've seen played a lot. I mean, obviously Jamili is running, or Nasty Surprise is running that Warrior Mage, which I think so far has been like one of the most powerful setups on the ladder. Both mages sort of just trading fireballs in the opener, trying to build up those procs. Right away, Velito taking a little bit of damage, but no one really taking too much at the time.
Yeah, it looks like the Mistweaver Monk Zez in the backline is just getting a lot of heals going on Velito, and he seems to be the primary target for now. We definitely want to see Jamili start the fight. He needs to blink in with that Polymorph if he wants to start a CC chain. Looks like they're swapping over to Clarity TKO. They've got him down to about half HP. Any CC, he's going for the poly. He blinks in, gets the full poly. Clarity TKO down to 20%. This could be the first ice block, down to 8%. First ice block has been forced. Now Velito trying to turn the pressure down around onto Jamili. Knowledge is no longer crowd control, topping him up very quickly. Full fear now onto the Mistweaver Monk. Any more CC, they might just take Clarity TKO down. One-shot GG is just annihilating him. Life Cocoon comes out. Last-minute desperation. Jamili goes for that last Polymorph diminishing return. There is no more crowd control available for the Mistweaver Monk. He should be able to easily heal through the pressure and actually get locked out on his heal. Jamili landing that full counterspell, bringing the heat, trying to keep the pressure going for his team. That counterspell has finally faded. Velito sitting through that full Polymorph. Jamili's just in full control of the match. Clarity TKO is on the run.
Yeah, keep in mind, Clarity only has one ice block this expansion. He can't get out of stuns either, so that's what happened at the beginning of the game. He actually blinked in, got full stun, and that's where all the pressure came out. Also came out of his ice block a little bit early, which forced the Life Cocoon coming out from Zez. Right now, I mean, Nasty Surprise is in a very dominating position. They haven't been really forced defensively at all. Zez now put into the full bash. There's a Polymorph out of that. Clarity could be in a little bit of trouble. Doesn't look like there's going to be for the time being, but that Warrior Mage damage is so huge right now onto Clarity. Knowledge doing an excellent job shifting all the sheeps of Clarity as well. It's just such a nightmare for Clarity to actually land CC on a Knowledge with that Warrior on his back and Jamili interrupting him. Clarity now dipping down to around 50% HP, catches a huge heal from Zez. Not too much CC out onto Zez at the moment, so because of that, Clarity's going to be fine.
Yeah, as soon as Jamili gets that Polymorph on Zez, Clarity TKO is going to be in a lot of trouble. I believe he's only playing with one Ice Block, so Clarity TKO needs to be careful. Right now he's in the middle of the map. He's getting Blade Stormed on. Avatar has been popped. If they can get any CC on Zez, they might be able to take him down, but Zez is doing a good job just using that Soothing Mist, staying behind the pillar, out of line of sight. Goes for the Vivify. Jamili blinks in, gets paralyzed on the blink. Really well played from Zez. Follows that up with a leg sweep, but it looks like Top Decked and Wrecked is going to go for a Fear instead. That Fear not really resulting in too much damage, though, onto Clarity. I'm really surprised to see Clarity sitting at such high HP throughout that CC. Jamili now could be under a bit of pressure. Knowledge caught in the Dragon's Breath. Clarity not able to follow up the CC, however. They do go for the Asphyxiate. Jamili getting paralyzed on his Polymorph cast. I really like Zez staying behind the pillar and using that Paralyze to lock Jamili out whenever he goes in for that Polymorph. It's really allowing his team to start to turn the match around. It looks like Jamili is down to about half HP. Knowledge no longer in CC. Should be able to heal through the pressure pretty easily. It looks to be kind of a stalemate. Definitely Jamili ahead, still having his Ice Block.
Yeah, Clarity isn't going to have that second Ice Block up for another 3 minutes. So right now, Nasty Surprise has a long time to sort of try to get something going. Knowledge caught into that Dragon's Breath. Doesn't look like there's going to be any follow-up. I believe he's actually running the Relentless talent. So when Clarity does push in and gets that Dragon's Breath onto him, he has the opportunity to swap before the Polymorph actually lands. So I think that was a smart choice by him. Jamili trying to spam out as much damage as possible. If we look at the mana of both healers right now, Knowledge is way ahead. Zez a little bit less mana efficient than Mistweaver Monk is, so he might need to actually go and look for a drink at some point during this game. But it looks like both teams are just sort of pulling back. No one really wants to press the issue too hard. I think Jamili realizes it's going to be hard to land CC onto Zez with the way he's positioning and the way he's using Incapacitate. So just trying to play it a little bit safe.
Yeah, it looks like they made a bit of a swap onto the Warrior. He was forced to use his Die by the Sword. That's his major defensive cooldown. And now that that's down, maybe they can get more pressure onto him. Jamili's looking to try and get a sheep on his Zez, but Zez is playing so far away. I feel like Nasty Surprise are advantaged just dragging this game out. Zez is so far behind on mana. If they just play in the middle like this in an even footing, I feel like they're just slowly, inevitably going to get ahead. Jamili just spamming out the Polymorphs defensively onto Clarity, trying to lock down some of his incoming damage. Gargoyle has been popped from Velito. Velito. Looks like they're trying to get a kill after forcing that die by the sword from the warrior. He's down to 50% HP. Knowledge just spamming out the regrowths, trying to keep his health up. That's expended a lot of his mana to heal through that pressure, so it's definitely looking to be more of a dampening game as these mages are really struggling to get the CC.
Yeah, and Zez actually going for a drink right now. This is exactly what he needs to do. He's being very mana efficient, just using those soothing mists to sort of give people love. Top deck and wreck, though, getting down to around 20% HP. Velito also getting dangerously low. I don't know if Zez is going to be able to heal through this. Down to 20% HP, almost into that Exeggy range. Top deck and wreck doing so much damage. Icebound Fortitude as well as that anti-magic shell should keep him up. But Zez in that CC, warrior damage is so high right now. Velito needs to be running. And he's going to get taken down. The bash coming in from Knowledge onto Zez. And that's going to be enough for Nasty Surprise to take the first game in the series.
Wow, that was so much damage. I'm surprised. Like it seems like it just came out of nowhere. Like the game was going kind of evenly normal pace, and then suddenly, bam! It's like I'm here, and Velito's gonna go down. Zez was not able to keep up with the pressure. Nasty Surprise take a 1-0 lead in the series. I'm curious if Turtastic are just trying compositions out for the sake of trying them, or if they thought that would work.
I don't. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, if we look at the I don't know how accurate the damage breakdown is, but Jamili doing 24 million to Clarity's 18 million, and Top Deck and Wrecked actually doing 33 million compared to Velito's 27 million. So Top Deck and Wrecked not only brings that Mortal Strike, but also doing more damage than Velito as well. So I think what ended up happening and sort of sealed the fate of Turtastic that game was Zez going for that drink, and he just couldn't keep up. Like he just couldn't recover. In this expansion, much more than last. Like once you fall behind as a healer, it's really hard to top off your teammate, especially with like a warrior and a fire mage just attacking into a target like a Death Knight that really can't get away.
Yeah, that was definitely not looking too good for Velito. Map number 2, selected by Turtastic, has been Tolvaron Arena. Do you think this is a good pick or a bad pick?
I think it's going to play out very similar to Niagara, and I think anytime Nasty Surprise wants to play defensive, they can pull back, and I don't know what Turtastic can do to really get aggressive. As Zez gets off the pillar, it's going to be easy for Jamili to land sheeps on him. That's the only time he really is avoiding crowd controls, when he's just hugging that pillar, and he's able to use the Incapacitate like we saw onto Jamili over and over every time he pushes in. But yeah, if he's sitting in the open, Jamili will land sheeps on him, and that's going to create a huge window of opportunity for Nasty Surprise. Whereas Knowledge, when he pushes in, he does have that bear form to sort of fall back onto, and it's not as easy for Clarity to land out those free sheeps. So I think this is going to play out very similar to like we saw last game. Anytime Nasty Surprise feels like they're in trouble, they can just pull away, and I think it's going to be a very uphill battle for Turtastic. But like you said, maybe they could try something like going on the Warrior the whole game, making swaps onto Knowledge, but I think it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be very challenging for Turtastic. Jamili taking to the center of the field, just lobbing out some fireballs, really nothing too significant. It looks like both teams are, again, reluctant to lose the defender's advantage. Like, if you're the healer that has to go across the map, you're at the disadvantage, especially in Legion. All of the healers really have to cast a lot, and so their healing on the move is very limited. So you want your healer to be in the best position as long as possible so that he can keep up with the damage. It looks like Knowledge expects Jamili to be the target, so he's got him fully pre-hotted. Sits down for a drink to get full mana once again, and it looks like Clarity's going to take to the center of the map. Is he going to 1v1 Jamili? Is he brave enough? Jamili just dodging fireballs in and out. Clarity looks to be aggravated. Blinks in now. Doesn't actually get anything done with it, though, and Jamili is just going to be spamming out the fireballs. Both the Death Knight and the Warrior are just reluctant to leave the pillar as the mages. Maybe this is just a 1v1 tournament game. I don't know, but right now it looks like a 1v1.
Whose fireball is going to do more damage? Just look at how much both mages are taking right now. I think Clarity actually used some charges of his what's it called, ice flows, some of his run casting. So maybe Jamili a little bit ahead in that exchange because he didn't actually use any cooldowns right away. Top Deck and Wreck pushing in. It gets leg swept up there by Zez. Looks like Top Deck and Wreck is going to be the target of choice. Knowledge actually going into that full asphyxiate. I don't know if Clarity's going to be able to land a sheep out. Doesn't look like he is able to. The Ironbark going out on Top Deck and Wreck. Jamili also taking a little bit of damage. Velito looks like the new target for Nasty Surprise. I guess they liked what they did last game, and they felt like that's how they're going to generate the most pressure.
That was a really nice temporal shield from Jamili. It absorbed all the incoming incoming damage, healed him right back to full. Clarity's going for the polymorph, not able to get it. It looks like he's actually going to swap to knowledge instead. Zez caught into that bash, not really able to follow it up with anything just yet. Jimilly blinks in, wasn't able to get the polymorph either. So with no CC onto Zez, Valido should be all right moving forward into the match. Knowledge actually gets full polymorphed, and top decked and wrecked could be in trouble, down to already at half HP, but they can't keep the chain going. Jimilly shuts down the CC chain, but Die by the Sword was used regardless, and that was their main goal, was getting this Die by the Sword cooldown out of the way. Now that that's out of the way, they might be able to get a kill, because I believe that Knowledge is playing Relentless, so he will not have a PvP trinket if they do get another full poly.
Yeah, the ideal CC chain, I guess, is just stun into polymorph. That should give them enough time to actually land a kill onto top deck and wreck, especially if Clarity is using that Kleptomania, so he doesn't have any hots. But looks like Knowledge is just pulling off the pillar, wants to be able to spam out as many casts as possible. Top deck and wreck, once again, taking quite a bit of damage. Valido as well, dipping a little bit low. The bash, polymorph going out onto Zez. Valido having to play a little bit defensive, just refuses to leave that pillar. Going to be using that anti-magic shell to absorb some of Jimilly's incoming damage. Zez finally out of that CC is going to be able to easily top off Valido for the time being. Knowledge, once again, though, getting sheep. He got the pre-Ironbark onto top deck and wrecked. I don't know how much pressure Clarity and Valido will be able to create on the top deck and wreck with that Ironbark up. But he is behind the pillar right now, caught into that DR leg sweep. Knowledge finally able to reconnect, but he gets Dragon's Breath. Top deck and wreck still just line of sighting. Finally getting hotted up there by Knowledge. I believe Clarity actually has Counterspell, so he had to use the Overgrowth, and the Kleptomania comes in. Top deck and wreck has 0 hots right now, but he wants to counter pressure. Going to be using that Avatar. Gets hotted up once again. Valido taking a little bit of damage as well, down to around 50% HP, and it looks like Nasty Surprise wants to get aggressive. Zez having to spam out that Soothing Mist to try to keep Valido up for the time being. Jimilly throwing out those polymorphs, trying to control Clarity, TKO up a little bit. Top deck and wreck and Valido both just hovering at around 60% HP. It's hard for these healers to actually top them off. Valido, though, dropping down to around 30% HP. If he gets a little bit lower, he's going to be into that execute range. It is not a place he wants to be. Anti-magic shell coming in. He will be absorbing that magical damage. The Dragon's Breath goes out onto Knowledge. He's able to shift the incoming polymorph from Clarity. Zez Valido down to 14% HP. He needs to get away. Top deck and wreck reconnects, gets the execute out, and that is going to be the second game for Nasty Surprise. They're going to be up 2-0 in this series, and it just seems like once the Mistweaver Monk falls behind and Jimilly and Top Deck and Wreck have enough pressure rolling and momentum in their favor, it's just really hard for them to recover.
Yeah, I don't know historically in the game if Death Knight Mage has ever been the greatest composition overall, so it just
once a time.
One time in the history of the game that
yeah.
that Death Knight Mage has been kind of a good combination. We've got Nasty Surprise, top deck and wrecked on the Warrior, Jimilly on Fire Mage, Knowledge on Resto Druid, going up against Turtastic, playing the Unholy Death Knight, Fire Mage, Mistweaver Monk. The Death Knight Mage, Mistweaver Monk composition looking not too great in this series. A couple of moments of high pressure. I would say about 10 seconds of high pressure and 4 minutes of running away, trying to not die. So not looking too good for Turtastic. Maybe they can find a way to turn this around. It seems like their main strategy is to try and overextend the Warrior behind the pillar and just blow him up when he line of sights Knowledge, which is an acceptable strategy. It's just really up to the Warrior and the rest of Druid to respond to that and play a little bit more defensively.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, I mean, Top Deck and Rack, Knowledge, and Jimilly can push in anytime they feel comfortable, and anytime they're sort of scared, they can just run away. And I think it's going to be really hard for Turtastic to pull out a victory. So I think this game is basically up to Nasty Surprise. I think if they play well, they got it in the bag. If they make a mistake or potentially get a little bit over aggressive, they could fall. So it's going to be up to Turtastic to capitalize on those mistakes.
Yeah, Jimilly coming in for a Dragon's Breath, only landing onto one player. Would have liked to land that onto more. Now Jimilly feeling the brunt of that aggression, trying to blink back. It looks like Clarity blinks in for a Sheep. Knowledge shapeshifts it, bashes up the Mage. Full Fear onto Zez. Valido in a lot of pressure, retreating back behind the pillar. He wants to line of sight Jimilly, but Top Decked and Wrecked has his Avatar up, so if they can get any CC on Zez, they might be able to even just take Valido down. Jimilly blinks in to try and get that polymorph. Zez line of sight's it. Really good line of sight from Zez. Jimilly now getting pressured, but he got that Temporal Shield up, so this Temporal Shield will heal back all of the damage that he's taking right back up to full HP. He gets gripped by Valido on his blink. They're trying to stay connected to Jimilly. I just feel like Jimilly's too tanky of a target for them with his cauterizing blink heal and the hots from Knowledge. It seems like he doesn't really take a lot of damage. They do manage to secure a full polymorph onto Zez. Valido's on the run with that Wraith Walk, trying to get out of line of sight. Heroic Leap of Top Deck and Wreck. Colossus smashes up. They're looking to tear him apart. Dragon's Breath follow up onto Zez. Knowledge goes for the Cyclone. Maybe here, it looks like Dark Sim was used by Valito. He was trying to steal that Cyclone. I don't think he was able to get it, but Knowledge wasn't able to get the Cyclone regardless, so Zez should be able to start getting some heals rolling onto Valito. He's still down to about half HP. Top decked and wrecked, dishing out a lot of pain. Still at half HP. Zez struggling to deal with the pressure. Jamili blinking back. Valito's AMS comes up in the nick of time. He's trying to line of sight Jamili as well, but Zez just cannot handle the damage. He goes for his Sheilun's gift, trying to get as much healing as possible here, but even with that, it's not enough. Jamili blinks in, lands the full polymorph, and Valito will ultimately go down. I believe the Corpse Shield comes out in desperation to absorb some damage coming up from top decked and wrecked. It's actually the only thing keeping him alive. Full Cyclone onto Zez. Can they follow that up with any more CC? Doesn't look like it. Zez portals behind the pillar, gets the Life Cocoon, and saves Valito.
Yeah, I don't know if he's actually going to be saved, though. Knowledge gets the offensive Cyclone onto Valito right now. Zez trying to get as much healing as possible into that Life Cocoon. The Colossus Smash comes up. Valito finally topped off, but for how long? Just spamming out those effuses. And meanwhile, Nasty Surprise really hasn't had to use too much at all. I think Top Deck and Wreck actually ended up using his Dive by the Sword there. Clarity actually using his one Ice Block offensively. He needed to peel for Valito, so he had to break some CCs, so Clarity could also be a target this game. But it looks like Nasty Surprise just wants to sit onto Valito. Top Deck and Wreck going to be using that Avatar about halfway through. Clarity getting polymorphed up. This Poly gets swapped over onto Zez. The Cyclone onto Clarity. Beautiful cross CC coming out from Nasty Surprise. Valito using that anti-magic shell. Wants to absorb some of Jamili's incoming damage. And it doesn't look like he's going to be in any trouble for now. Zez should be out of that CC chain finally. Ooh. But
that was a cheeky
yeah.
Vortex. Knowledge almost Vortex Zez on his rolling Clonedom. That was an interesting play from Knowledge. Wasn't able to get it regardless. They go for the Fear instead, and now Valito's in a lot of trouble. Colossus smashes up. Top decked and wrecked is looking for a kill. He needs help. Where is the help? Clarity looks to be DC'd, unfortunately, and that is where the help would be. This Polymorph guy. We need some Polymorphs, unfortunately. Clarity TKO is not here at the moment. It looks like Nasty Surprise are going to wait, however, for him to come back. Surprisingly enough, this game wasn't looking too bad in terms of staying alive. I mean, Turtastic is staying alive, and maybe they can make something happen in dampening later in the game when Knowledge's HOTS are going to be lower. I'm not too sure, but that's ultimately if Clarity TKO can come back.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Very good very good sportsmanship coming out from Nasty Surprise here, waiting for Clarity to potentially get back online, or I don't know if his computer crashed or what, but yeah, once again, guys, this is the final game. If Nasty Surprise wins, they're up 2-0 right now. Turtastic sort of upper bracket life on the line. They do have the opportunity to come back and fight through the losers bracket if they get knocked down here, but that's not a place you want to be early on in the tournament.
I'm just taking a look through the talents. The talents are the biggest update to the game right now, and the most selection that you have for strategy as a player. So it's interesting. So Valito's actually running Heartstop Aura. This is just an aura that decreases the cooldown recovery rate by 20%. So if they can get Die by the Sword out from Top Decked and Wrecked, I believe his Die by the Sword goes to like a 4-minute cooldown. So that's a huge window to actually be able to get a kill. So it's even though they don't have a lot of consistent pressure, if they get that cooldown one time, he's not going to have it again for a very long time. So maybe it's not as one-sided as we think. Maybe they could be able to turn it around. And then the biggest update I feel for Unholy Death Knights is Corpse Shield. So this is a 1-minute cooldown, and it basically redirects 90% of the damage to your pet, your ghoul, and it just absorbs all of it. So your ghoul has a lot of HP, and it's basically like just an extra health bar almost. So you want to make sure when you're fighting against Unholy Death Knights that you're keeping some sort of dots, damage over time effects on the ghoul pet as well, so it goes down in HP. So when the Corpse Shield is activated, it's not as much of an absorb. And those are like the two major talent selections, I think, for Valito Unholy Death Knight. But it looks like Clarity TKO ultimately disconnected from the match, which means that Nasty Surprise will be taking a 3-0 victory in the first series of the tournament today.
Yep, that was a good game. Kind of went as expected. We've seen Warrior Mage sort of been dominating, besides the melee cleaves that you talked about a little bit earlier, just dominating the ladder. So not too much of a surprise there. The next match we do have coming up for you guys, like we mentioned earlier, is going to be Soar up against Last Minute.